Tales of the Lunaverse, Episode 1, An Early Reunion, by Rainbowdoubledash. Chapter 3, Wine. Celestia let out a light gasp and decided to change where she had been led to. The marble and granite walls of this guest quarter had been covered by elegant tapestries, hiding their cold stone behind intricate woven patterns, while the floor was covered with a carpet so thick she was almost surprised she was not given a machete to help her pass through. The ceiling overhead had been painted deep blue and was covered in swirls of yellow and gold of all sizes, suggesting brilliantly glowing stars. The room had its own fireplace, which was already alight as Celestia entered. Most impressive of all was the bed. It was ovular in shape, and easily large enough to accommodate several ponies of Celestia's size, and its sheets looked like they were woven from silk. Folded elegantly at the end of the bed were additional sheets and a comforter, though she doubted it would be necessary, given it was late spring. Celestia turned to regard Luna's majordomo as Katasho entered and had a chance to marvel at the room itself. "I thank thee," she said, offering a generous bow, "and I apologize. I do not remember thy name." "That would be because I have not given it," Majordomo replied. "I still have lit." Celestia blinked. "I see no cause for thy hostility." "Oh?" the majordomo asked. He let silence linger a moment before turning around. "I must attend the princess now. Good day." In a moment he was gone, trotting off through the halls of Canterlot. Celestia had no idea that Equestrian was so versatile a language that the phrase good day could come across as an insult. Celestia watched him go for a moment, before closing the door to her room and turning around, taking it all in once again, not just the room, but the situation, the fact that she was in the castle, Luna's reaction upon seeing her. She was not even conscious of the fact she was on the bed, prancing on place upon its mattress, and bouncing in joy, until she nearly hit her horn on the ceiling above. A slight squeal of delight escaped her throat, not that she tried particularly hard to keep it in. "Sono-kui!" she said, forgetting her equestrian for the moment. "Sono-kui, sono-kui, sono-kui! Luna mi ha creato ed ora sono nel castello di Equestria." Celestia let out a long sigh as she stopped bouncing and just sank onto the bed, feeling its seats glide beneath her hooves and head. It felt right to be surrounded by such luxury. It was what a princess deserved. Celestia supposed it was a bit spoiled of her to think so, but what was the point of royalty reborn if she couldn't indulge in it every now and then? Especially the now part. Carter Soul watched Her Majesty with an amused snuckle. "What shall be thy decree?" he asked idly. Celestia opened one eye, smiling at Carter Soul from the bed. "No more peas!" she proclaimed without hesitation. "Lindsay Exshot first told me who I was, and I would be princess one day. I decided then and there my first decree would be I would never have to again eat peas." She paused a moment and thought. "Well, actually, it was destroy every pea farm in Caviria and Equestria, but I thought about that since, and I suppose that's not very fair to the good pea farmers of the world. But I shall not eat peas ever again." Kazuso chuckled at Her Majesty's proclamation, looking around. "I'm surprised that Luna does not wish to speak to thee immediately." Celestia sat up on the bed, shaking her head. "'Tis understandable. She needs time, after all. I have been preparing for this day for nearly a decade. But she has had no warning, and further, she has had ponies trying to trick and deceive her." Celestia nodded sagely. "No doubt. She is in her chambers, mulling the information and deciding what to do with it. How to react. She needs time, and she can have as much as she needs." "Now," Celestia said, smiling at Katasho, "60 out the finest wine thou can acquire, please. Princess Luna said I was to have whatever I desired, and I desire a celebration." The princess regarded the pony before her, with eyes that had seen countless moonrises. She scuffed a hoof that lay low demons, dragons, and creatures far more terrible than either. The stars themselves alighted at the command of the Shepherd of the Moon, as she turned the voice that spoke those commands upon the Earth Pony mare, who stood between her and destination. "Move!" Nate, princess. Dear pony, not even a guard, but rather a coat, with a green coat, purple mane, and ladybug cutie mark, said, placing her hose firmly planted on the ground, remaining between princess and her goal. This proved to be, quite possibly, the brave pony in Equestria, or even in the world, for she dared to stand between the eldest alicorn remaining on the planet and that alicorn's goal, the wine cellar of Canterlot Castle. Luna leaned forward a little. By my royal command, thou shalt remove thyself from thy sight! She ordered. The earth pony, her name was Bit of Luck, swallowed. She and the princess were standing in a narrow hallway, door to the wine cellar behind Bitter Luck, stairs leading up to the castle behind Luna. The hallway was lit by candles set into sconces, but the majority of those were behind the princess. Luna's own body and slightly flared wings obscured most of the light, casting her face in shadow. By that royal command, Bitter Luck said, I must remain. At the sound of the earth pony's words, the princess formed a very unroyal action. She pounded. I rescind that order, she decreed. By that same command, it must never be rescinded, the earth pony said, but begging thy pardon, Majesty, but thy decree that thou wert to be restricted to no more than a single goblet, and only at formal gatherings. I remember my own decree, thank thee very much, Luna responded blithely, scuffing her hoof once more. But my nerves are shot right now, and I need a tonic. The royal apothecary, then, a voice suggested. Luna visibly sagged as Starlight Shine clambered down the steps behind Luna, approaching the princess and bowing. Bit of Luck notably relaxed at the sight of the Major Domo. If I might be so bold, Majesty, I'm certain that green charm would be far better at creating a tonic for what ails thee than any Ventura. Thou wouldst not say such things if thou had ever tasted all unicorn Cardinia paroxysm, Luna mumbled under her teeth. Pardon, Your Majesty? I said, Luna stated, turning to regard her major domo. The eye have gazed upon this world since time immemorial. I know what I need to steady my nerves, and it lies beyond that door. She pointed at the wooden door that Bit of Luck guarded beyond reason. Earth Pony flinched at her gesture, and despite Luna's outstretched hoof being several feet from Bit of Luck's muscle, Starlight regarded his princess coolly for a moment. With all due respect and deference, Majesty, he said, if thou really desired wine, we both know that poor Bit of Luck there could not impair thy progress through that door in the slightest. Princess and her major domo considered ingress for several moments, before Luna's horn glowed slightly, and her body broke apart into starry mist and floated away, past Bit of Luck, who cried out in surprise, through the cracks into the door's frame, and into the wine cellar. Starlight let out an immense sigh, and he looked at Bit of Luck. Excellent attempt, good lady. Thou can return to thy normal duties for now. Forgive me. I tried and I... Oh, calm down. Starlight interrupted the pony's tirade before it began. Thou might as well try to align the stars, which I am about to attempt, incidentally. So wish me luck. The ghost of a smile appeared on Bit of Luck's face at that, as he bowed slightly as the major domo made his way to the door and opened it, heading into the wine cellar. The cellar was dark, of course, but it was a simple enough matter for Starlight Shine to set his sword alight, casting a violet glow across the chamber. It was large, he knew, not that this was easy to discern, given all that the sight was obscured by rows upon rows of casks, containing the finest wine from across Equestria. Most of the wine was quite old, predating Celestia's fall and the 12-year vital abandonment of Canterlot Castle by her sister. But the wine was well protected against degradation by a combination of the wine casks themselves and lingering enchantments meant to preserve the wine inside against just about anything. One major exception being a determined alicorn. Starlight wandered through the wine cellar, looking around as he did so. Canterlot was not often host to the gathering of nobles it had once been, so the princess had quite a glut of choices for her palate down there. Still, I was able to find her before too long, standing in front of a particularly large cask of wine von Californon, 2 conjuring goblets held in their telekinetic gas. She was just finishing pouring out the second one as Starlight arrived, and she turned around as she stopped trying. Majesty, I'm here to stop you, the unicorn informed the alicorn. In response, the alicorn completely drained the contents of her goblet, some of the wine dribbling down her chin as she did so. Starlight could do little, but watched impassively as she finished, and regarded her major domo with an arch look. Thou hast failed in thy quest, she said. Then she held forward the other goblet and refilled her own. Thou mightest well drink with me and mourn thy failure. Starlight muttered a moment, then considered that Her Majesty was correct. He grasped the official goblet of wine with his own telekinesis, bringing it to his muzzle and taking in the aroma, before taking a considerably more measured drink from it. Even as he did, Luna brought her own goblet to her lips. It surprised Starlight, but also refraining from inhaling the beverage. There are degrees of success, Majesty, Starlight said. Dost thou intend to get drunk? I wish to, Luna said, absolutely seriously, as she considered the wine in front of her. Behind her, however, the cat sealed herself. But no, I shall not. Then I count this as least a partial success, Majesty. To success, then, Luna said, raising her goblet. Starlight did likewise, and each took another drink. As the two finished, Luna regarded Starlight, this time with concern written all over her eternally youthful face. Am I walking down my sister's path? She asked. Starlight considered his process, pressing his lips together. What dost thou mean, Majesty? He asked. Luna stared at her drink. The impersonators, she answered. Is it right what I did? No crime was committed, none that I know of. I suppose 'tis possible that one cruel law of my sister's, or yet another lingers on a book. But I did not consider that. I felt insulted. I felt angry, and so I lashed out. I darkened the sky in a pure display of power, as anything Corona did. Starlight glimmered. Luna insisted that Celestia was long gone, that the mare she had banished into the heart of the sun was only a twisted reflection called Corona, a name pulled from the elder alicorn's attempt to crown herself as High Queen of all Equestria, subservient to no pony, and controlling every pony, even as all of Equestria rose against her when Luna had stolen the elements of harmony. Starlight knew, however, that it was a psychological crutch, an attempt on Luna's part to rationalize what she did to herself, to try and forgive herself sending her sister away forever. He sincerely hoped that Luna's self-imposed delusion would not catch on amongst the populace, nor remain with her for long. Some of these ponies wish to take advantage of me for wealth and power, Luna continued. No doubt they still imagine me the inebriate I was for 12 years, easily fooled, at least long enough to get Canterlot's treasure votes. But some of those ponies were merely desperate. Equestria has become a poor nation, and it is my fault, because I abandoned her for so long when she needed me most. The desperate ponies, perhaps, only wish for a warm roof over their heads, a full meal. And then there were the last, the disturbed ponies, the ones who truly believed themselves to be Celestia. Many of them were manipulated by others, the illusions I played into. Some simply reached them on their own. She regarded Starlight with a pained expression. I have seen insanity. I have seen what delusion can drive a pony to do. I know that they do not mean harm. They simply do not understand what they are doing. But did I consider any of that? No. I summoned blackness, thunder, and lightning, and made them fear the night. I blamed them for faults that I directly or indirectly allowed, and have them all thrown in the dungeon like common criminals. Luna paused a moment in thought, taking the time to sip her wine once more. I can only imagine the fear my lightning storm and voice caused the rest of Canterlot. Luna looked to Starlight. So, Starlight shine. Answer me. Am I walking down the same path that once transformed my sister into Corona? No, Starlight answered immediately. Luna seemed taken aback, as though she expected, wanted, to be told that she was becoming some kind of black twin Celestia in her final years. Think thee carefully on the matter, Starlight. I have, Majesty, Starlight said. Thou art no counterpart to the tyrant sun. No nightmare moon, if thou'st allowed me to coin a phrase. That would be obvious to any pony and every pony who speaks to thee. But the impersonators were attempting to deceive thee, Starlight said. I cannot speak as to whether there are specific laws against insulting the crown, but there are laws against fraud, which the desperate and deceptive ponies who are impersonating thy sister were most certainly attempting. Thou art entirely justified, and there is full legal recourse. Luna looked unconvinced. And the mad ones? They are insane. They believe themselves to be Celestia. Perhaps prison is not where they belong, but certainly neither should they be out and about on the street. They can hurt themselves, or others. Thou hast had 6 months to decide how to deal with them. And the desperate? The ones who wanted somewhere warm to sleep? Those are warm, or can be. Meals are regular there. Crime is still crime, Majesty, regardless of their reasons. But if it troubles thee so, you have once more some months to come up with a solution. And until then, the ponies you worry for are better off. This, finally, leaves only the ones who wish to intentionally deceive thee, when they had no reason for it. Charlatan tricksters such as they belong in prison. After a fair trial, Lumina amended, taking another swig of wine. All these ponies require a fair trial. They shall all be held and charged, but trials must be properly carried out. That's a racist, Starlight. Starlight stared at Luna, rather than agreeing. The alicorn stared back, her look of concern over the course of a fair legal process dropping as she saw the look on Starlight's face. Don't ask, she began. Why is there a winged unicorn at Canterlight Castle? Starlight asked, ignoring Her Majesty's wishes. Luna ground her teeth together as she considered the question. She is not a winged unicorn, she answered. Oh? Starlight asked, brow raising slightly. A true unicorn, then? I must say, Majesty, she's an exceptional spellcaster, then. Even I cannot detect the magic creating her wings, he considered. I think I understand thee now. Such a powerful sorceress should be properly trained and nurtured. She is not a unicorn. Starlight blinked at that, staring at Yuna. The alicorn downed what remained of her wine, considered the empty goblet, and turned back to the cast, opening it once more and pouring herself a fresh goblet. As she turned around, she found herself treated to the rare sight of Starlight's mouth hanging open, in utter shock. It comforted Luna to know it was still possible to surprise her fairly cynical major domo. But what? He stammered, setting the goblet down on the ground, lest he dropped it in shock, as the gears turned in his head. He considered the possibilities that lay before him, or at least attempted to. Luna grimaced. She is an alicorn. Impossible. Having seen my reflection quite often, Starlight, I must inform thee that I am quite familiar with alicorns. I know one when I see one. She is an alicorn. Starlight stood, backed away several paces, looking like he wanted to change up the gross room, if only to look at the alicorn with his own eyes once more. Is she really who she claims to be? Luna opened her mouth to respond, whether positively or negatively. Starlight didn't know, but then paused. She looked past Starlight, to the rows and rows of casks that were behind him, and the entrance to the wine cellar. A pony was approaching, though his calm gait made it very clear he was likely not heard of any of the conversation gone beyond Luna and Starlight. As he reached the periphery of Starlight's horn light, Luna saw it was the brown-coated retainer of the alicorn from before. Pegasus, for his part, dropped to his knees and hopped as soon as he saw the princess. Princess Luna, the retainer exclaimed, I am sorry. I did not mean to disturb thee. Luna walked over to the retainer, looking down at it for a moment. What brings thee here? My mistress bid me to bring her wine. She wishes to celebrate her arrival in the continent. Luna nodded, unsurprised, before turning around and focusing on the cask of wine that she had Starlight been drinking from. A glass bottle materialized from nothingness. The wine began to drift from cask to bottle, filling into capacity before a cork appeared and stopped the wine. Luna then turned back to the Pegasus, putting the bottle down before him. This is an excellent vintage, she told the Pegasus. Please bring it to your mistress with my compliments. I also invite her to join me for the raising of the moon tonight. If it was possible, the brown Pegasus bowed more with cautiously standing. Of course, your highness, he exclaimed. I am certain that Celestia would be delighted to attend. With your leave. Pegasus picked the bottle up with his teeth, turned quickly, leaving the wine cellar as fast as his hooves could carry him. Luna watched him go impassively, before turning around, regarding Starlight, who was still in a state of shock over Luna's revelation. "When they're all finished," she said, "please see to arranging those trials, Starlight." "Yes, your majesty," the unicorn said absentmindedly, probably more out of reflex than having heard his princess. Luna didn't wait for him to recover. Instead of finishing her goblet of wine, allowed herself to dissolve into mist, heading into her chambers atop the tallest tower of Candlelight Castle. Chapter 4. The test begins. "She what?" Luna demanded of Countersoul, her mouth hanging open at his statement, wings flared wide. Her retainer's smile faltered. Is this not good news?" he asked. Celestia had begun to pace back and forth, her face holding a confusing mixture of shock, concern, and delight. "Nay, it is, but I did not think I would." She paused, looking at Countersoul. "What does one wear to a moonrise with Luna herself?" The brown Pegasus blinked a few times. He said, I expect nothing, Majesty." "But it's a moonrise! With Luna!" Celestia began, pacing again. "How many ponies get to experience or see it? Such an arcane and ancient ritual, rising the moon, the very embodiment of magic, mystery, and protection. Our stars know it! Ah, Estelle! Luna will be stringing up the stars as well. Of course, even then, how could I forget?" She looked around her room, eyes settling on a tall cabinet that she raced towards. Inside, she found a selection of ornate dresses, none of them sized for a mare of her impressive height. "Sati!" she cried. "How sposo sono di Sati in the medio matin?" Cousin had rarely seen Celestia in such a state as he rifled through the dresses. "With respect," he said, sticking to Equestria, as per her Majesty's command, despite her own slip. "The princess does this, quite literally, every night. I imagine it's something of a routine for her." Celestia spun on Countersoul. "Routine?" she demanded. "Routine? This is the racing of the moon and stars. Who knows what ancient rituals are involved? No doubt my sister dresses in only the finest of imported silk, and wears the gems echoing the beauty of the night. Ancient words in a tongue heard by no mortal ears are spoken." She went on for some time. Celestia, Countersoul, had learned over the years, and an extremely romantic view of what it means to be a princess, equally drinking out all the myths and rumors that had surrounded both Luna and her previous incarnation, certainly having ample opportunity to speak with servants of the Exarch Convivialia. He suspected that Luna's was much as the Exarch's own, long hours of boring tedium and paperwork, broken up by the occasional financial crisis or bickering noble. "And then she shall lower the sun and Casaro!" Countersoul recoiled at that, actually beating his wings to propel himself backwards into the air, narrowly avoiding the immediately high ceiling. He felt heat in his face. "Princess!" he exclaimed. "How did you even know that word?" Celestia held a hoof to her mouth, looking surprised at her own exclamation. It was rare, these days, but every now and then she slipped, forgetting that she was the sun reborn, instead talking like the earth pony Venters she grew up as. Curses were not uncommon words on a vineyard, and she could swear with the best of them if she needed to. But that was not how a princess was supposed to act. At least, enough to shock her out of the mild panic. She looked at Countersoul. "But what does she expect me to lower the sun?" she asked in a small voice, looking at her flank, still covered by her white traveling cape, which she hadn't removed. Her retainer came down from the air, though his fellows were still ruffled at Celestia's exclamation. "Then," he pondered, "then I expect, Majesty, that thou shalt have to lower the sun." Celestia looked at Countersoul. "But what if I can't? What if she thinks? What if I am just another impersonator?" Taking her traveling cape into her teeth, she pulled it off and letting it fall to the floor. In almost all ways, Celestia knew she had a body to die for. She was as tall as any stallion, but lithe as a mare could be. Her wings were strong and graceful, horn long and sharply pointed at its end. Her coat was immaculate, and covered with a healthy sheen. Her mane was expertly maintained, and fetlocks shorn. But her flank was bare. Despite being 20 years old, her cutie mark had never manifested, Instead, at around the same time Foal's hurricanes had been gaining theirs, she had grown sick for several days. Too weak to move and racked with pain in her back and head. And when those days were over, there had been light and ethereal music, and Celestia instead possessed her wings and horn. Celestia knew that there were ponies who would have traded their right front legs, never mind their cutie marks, for the chance to become an alicorn. Celestia, instead, could only see it as an embarrassment. Every time she looked to her blind flank, she felt like there was something wrong with her. She was Celestia. She was the sun. How could she have not had her cutie mark yet? She looked back at Countersoul. I cannot go to the princess before looking like this, she stated, turning back around towards the dresses, trying to find one that seemed appropriate, and wishing she had possessed the foresight to bring one for Cavalia to fit her. I shall look like an overlord's youngling. No, I won't hear of it. Please, sing the yellow tailor for me. She telekinetically pulled out one dress, orange and white in coloration, impossibly complex in weaving, probably utterly ridiculous to be wearing. Sing thee out many tailors! I must look perfect for tonight! Countersoul let out a slight sigh as he made his way towards the door, but paused before leaving. He said, Majesty, don't realize that any tailors right here would a curse. See the lack of a kitty mark. Celestia froze, blinking at that. She looked down at her tresses. Countersoul, flank, before laying out a sigh of frustration. Necessary sacrifice, she exclaimed. I must not look like a fool before the princess! Many hours later, and many tailors later, who had kept silent about their opinions on Celestia's bare flank, thankfully, I have a feeling that many of those opinions involve dang, that, and flank, somewhere in that combination. Celestia found herself standing outside a pair of large, ornately decorated doors near the top of Canterlot's Talus Tower, feeling like a fool. Her dress of choice ended up being a white and golden flare, one that had nearly been worn by any pony in a long time. But it covered her flanks, which was her major concern, while also leaving room for her wings, as he had to admit, while wearing it, she felt a little more regal. She had no choice of dresses back at Cavalia, of course, most of them much finer than what she was wearing now. And nevertheless, it felt right. The open doors opened inwards, and Celestia was presented with a large, wide room, hewn from black marble. The floor of the room was a vast mosaic, but the alicorn couldn't tell what the picture was from this angle. Domed ceiling, on the other hand, was instantaneously recognizable as having been done up to resemble a star chart, but rather than simple stone tiles, each star was represented by some kind of gemstone. Even given the ubiquity of them in the Equestrian soil, there was a fortune on the ceiling, all of it oriented around a large object in the center, the moon. There were no candles, torches, glow gems, or light sources of any kind in the room. Instead, a trio of large balconies with no rails, one directly opposite the door into the room, facing north, while the other two were in the west and east, allowed natural light in, though that light was fading as the sun continued to ascend toward the horizon. Luna wasn't in sight. Celestia glanced to her guard, and he nodded toward the door, indicating she should enter. Gritting her teeth, the son reborn did so, head held high as he strode into the sanctum, the perfect example of poise, grace, and style, at least until the door closed behind her. It didn't even close loudly, but it nevertheless was enough to make Celestia yelp and jump into the air, wings beating frantically. After a few moments of staring at the treacherous door, she looked down, and at last saw what the mosaic on the floor was. She didn't recognize it. It was just meaningless slabs of blue, brown, yellow, and green. But after staring at it long enough, she looked to the blues and saw water. The browns were mountains, yellow vast fields, and green deep forest. She saw lines of red that represented roads, and markings indicating towns and cities. Flying higher, as high as the ceiling would permit, Celestia realized he was looking down at the largest map he had ever seen. A map of Equestria and all nearby lands. There was the Griffin Empire to the north. Though Celestia heard that the Emperor of all Grimps recently died without an heir, which was probably going to fragment the empire. And if this is anything like the main verse, you have no idea. Celestia's own Cavilia, and her ancient rival state of Zaleda in the southeast. The vast and untamable evergreen forest, dominating the center of the map. Please place O in here. Bordering on the Sea of Tranquility, its crystal blue surface marred only by the tiny and haunted island of Tamberlon. Shing! I'm a little nervous about that last one. The west was dominated by the expanse of the Great Desert, broken only by the occasional marker, indicating oases around which camel cities arose in defense of the sand. Celestia lowered herself gently to the floor. Taking a closer look at the map, she now knew what it was. The detail was exquisite. Luna suppressed a grimace as brought by long-forgotten memories. Feelings of inadequacy as he watched her examining the map of Equestria and beyond. The vast and considerably more detailed, not to mention taking half as again too long to construct, star chart in the ceiling forgotten. There had been a time, not too long ago from her mortal perspective, when she had felt the night sky, an effort that she put into every night, was being ignored by ponies at large. She had begun to question if anybody cared about her or appreciated her beyond her sister. Only a scattered hoofful of ponies took an interest in the moon and stars that Luna shepherded. The rest slept. Of course, that had changed rapidly when Celestia had begun her descent into madness, and gradually became Corona. More and more ponies had begun taking their issues and problems to the Night Court, rather than the day as Celestia became more reasonable in their orders and dictums. That still means I was merely an alternative, Luna thought morosely. After a few more moments, however, she shook her head. That was in the past, 50 years ago and more now. While it still mattered why the ponies had initially come to her, she had been able to strike up true friendships, earn the respect and love of any pony who came to see her. Night was no longer a time of necessary sleep, but welcome respite. The darkness wasn't something to be feared, but rather respected and cherished for protection, and the light of moon and stars were no longer inadequate stand-ins for the sun, but a gentle alternative to the harsh and unforgiving rays of its tyranny. None of that truly mattered, however. A tingling at the base of her horn let her know the sun was reaching the nadir of its path across the sky. It was time for her to sink beyond the horizon, and more importantly, it was time for Luna to speak to her. Celestia looked up at the sight of a blue flash. At the western balcony, she saw a wave of blue smoke appear from nothingness, swiftly disappearing in a wind that wasn't there as it slid over and around the steadily present form of Princess Luna Equestrius. The reigning monarch of Equestria had her back to Celestia, eyes closed on her horn and glowed a dark blue. Cautiously, Celestia moved so she was looking directly out the western balcony. She saw, in the fair distance, the sun began to slide beyond the horizon. Oh, thank the stars, Celestia thought, relieved enough that not having to set the sun, she forgot to be disappointed in how Luna, not performing any kind of ritual, nor dressing for the occasion in a garment, not worth more than a hoard of an ancient dragon. When the sun was just under halfway behind the horizon, Luna turned, eyes opening and instantly locking on Celestia's own. She began walking forward, and Celestia found she had to suppress the urge to bow. Or should she be bowing? After all, Luna had not formally recognized her as her sister, and she settled instead on being frozen in place and just staring back at the princess. Luna's face was a picture-perfect example of neutral, as she examined Celestia in detail. As he approached, it veered off slightly, beginning to circle around Celestia. The pink alicorn realized she was quickly being examined, Luna taking in every detail of her face, wings, shoe-shod hooves. Celestia bit her lip as Luna circled her. Hello? She said, feeling stupid as she did. Luna paused in her circling of Celestia at that. Forgive me, she said at length, sitting back on her haunches. She seemed to consider, I have dealt with impostors for some time. I cannot rule out the possibility that thou art extremely skilled at casting illusions, or glamours. Celestia shook her head. Nay, I have never had any skill with them. Thou seest, Luna said, inclining her head. Of course, if thou wert the sort of pony who could cast such figments, then lying would no doubt be second nature to thee, and I have no cause to trust any of thy words. Celestia stared at Luna as the princess got up, but rather than receive her circling of Celestia, she instead walked over towards the east balcony. The sun was now almost completely set in the distance. I am not lying! She exclaimed, despite herself, as she followed Luna. I am Celestia, reborn! Luna closed her eyes as she stopped at the balcony, settling once more onto her haunches in the fading light. Thou sayest, she repeated, but I am very, very old. I have been a trickster in my time, and I have been tricked. That is why thou art here, Cadence. Now, I might judge thee and confirm thy claims. Celestia, for her, got in her indignation. Cadence? Luna's eyes opened as she looked into the pink alicorn. I have done research into the Cadmenian rumors that have drifted this far north. That is the name thy mother granted thee, correct? Nay, Cadenza. Mi amore Cadenza. She stood tall and firm. But no longer. I am Celestia. I am the sun, and I will pass any test thou set before me. Luna's mask of impassivity dropped slightly at Celestia's statement, replaced by sadness, memory, regret. Luna couldn't tell, but it was up again within moments as the last sun dipped behind the horizon. Several long moments. Equestria was cloaked in utter blackness. Then, in the east, there was the faintest of lights, as a single star shot up from beyond the horizon, settling comfortably into place in the north of the sky, twinkling several moments. Then another one, finding its home. Then 2, then 3, 5, 6, 12, 20, 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million points of light, all bursting from the horizon, swarming across the night sky, twirling around each other as though in chase, arranging themselves into constellations that swirled across the sky. Here, Draco pursued Cepheus as though seeking a meal. There, Corvus and Cetus flew around each other in an intricate dance in 3 dimensions. Orion fired his bow and loosed 1,000 more stars as the arrow shot but missed Taurus. Cancer scuttled into place. Canis and Lupus eyed each other warily. Leo and Ursa gave each other respectful distance, and all the way before Argo Navis, the boat, the largest of all constellations, crashing its keel, scarlet countless more stars across the night sky. Like rowdy children they moved, visiting, settling to place, but their movement only stopped when a bright glow, tossing that of any of the stars, appeared on the horizon. The edge of that source of ardent light began to appear in the distance, its glow washing across the land like a slow-moving wave of gentle silver light. The moon. Celestia realized after several minutes that the show was over, and it took her several moments to realize that her jaw was hanging open, just slightly. She closed it as she looked to Luna, who was no longer regarding her with an arch look, but instead a look of appreciation. I have never seen anything so beautiful, Celestia said, stepping away from Luna and towards the edge of the balcony, watching as the silver light of the moon moved across the land, out the sides of the mountain that Canterlot was on, then through the city itself, before finally proceeding to pass over her. The light was cold, but not in a frigid way, more like a gentle coolness, the kind eagerly sought after a hot summer's day. Luna smiled gently at that as she joined Celestia, watching her even as Celestia herself looked at the stars and the moon. For several long minutes there was only silence, before the Princess of the Night finally broke it. If thou art a unicorn, Luna said, then thou must be, in some way, a composite of all 3 pony tribes, yet greater than the sum of thy parts. We shall start with thy wings. Thou art in possession of them, clearly. But canst thou use them? Celestia flapped her wings a few times at that, taking off from the balcony. I can fly, she insisted. Thou can hover, yes, soar, maybe, glide, probably. But I do not yet know if thou can well and truly fly. Luna beat her wings once, and was almost instantaneously 100 feet in the air. Celestia's jaw dropped at the speed. Even a wry grin overtook Luna's features. Catch me if thou art able, she ordered, before turning around and shooting off into the east. Celestia blinked a few times, before realizing hovering there in stunned silence was doing nothing towards her chances. Her own wings began to beat as he gave chase to Luna's receding form. And she couldn't help herself. She was smiling.